Cyberpunk 2077 just got one of its most comprehensive overhauls ever. Now, every single enemy you encounter in this game is going to have new unique abilities, new mechanics they could take advantage of, and this has huge impacts on how you can play and also just makes the game a lot more fun. In this video, I'm going to show you this epic new overhaul mod that I think is perfect for a new playthrough, get one last one in before Phantom Liberty, but also a couple of other new mods that are seriously overhauling the game, like more new quests finally coming to Cyberpunk. Phantom Liberty is coming, and probably coming pretty soon, so now is the perfect time to get this playthrough in. But listen, as you're watching this, I am on a plane to California just to play Phantom Liberty early, and I needed a little help to do that. But don't worry, I'm not selfish, I'm gonna help you out too. That with today's video sponsor, Ridge. Father's Day is literally just over a week away now, but thankfully Ridge made gifting easy by hosting one of their biggest sales of the year right now. You gotta help your dad out. These oversized thick wallets are plaguing dads worldwide, but the Ridge wallet is the perfect solution as it still holds 12 cards and cash, and the Ridge wallet comes in over 30 colors, but they also just released some new leather wallets that you just know dads are going to love. These look amazing. I just recently took one on a holiday with me, and this is by far the most compliments I have ever gotten on a wallet. Although if you are picking up a Ridge wallet, you should probably get a key case also. These are going to save a ton of room in your pockets while also preventing key jingling, and you can save up to 30% by purchasing a Ridge key case and wallet together. And don't worry, Ridge wallets have a 99-day refund window, so you can make sure your dad's gonna get something he loves. So get in on this incredible sale right now using my link at ridge.com/juicehead and save up to 40% through June 15th. That's ridge.com/juicehead. But first out, we have Loom. This is going to be a brand new and really interesting new lighting mod for Cyberpunk 2077. What this one's attempting to do is mimic a cinema camera. So as you play Cyberpunk 2077, you'll feel like you're actually in a movie. It'll overhaul some of the lighting features like chromatic aberration, adding in a bit more bloom overall, but not too much, as this mod also does feature some of the eye adaptation fixes. So now you'll get some cool effects on screen when looking at light sources, particularly that big one in the sky. But of course, the most notable overhaul with this mod is around the lighting and really color of Cyberpunk in general. The lighting and coloring in Cyberpunk will be a bit brighter, but not as washed out and overwhelming as it appears in vanilla Cyberpunk 2077. You can see it in the cityscape scene, many of the neon lights are almost too strong to read in vanilla Cyberpunk, but perfectly legible when you have Loom installed. And I think where this overhaul really starts to shine is in some of the well-lit areas of Night City. Cruising around during the day looks phenomenal with Loom. The colors just look sharper and things stand out a bit more while still maintaining a relatively familiar style for Night City. With this mod installed, it does feel like there is a larger contrast from shadowed areas to well-lit ones, but overall it is going to be yet another and more distinctive option for a lighting overhaul for Cyberpunk. There's quite a few options now, and a lot of this is just going to be subjective, so if you're having trouble deciding, I'm going to have Loom on in the background for the rest of this video. Although we also have another new quest mod, that with Encore. And I think this new quest is going to be pretty interesting for a lot of you, as what this will do is expand your romance options in Cyberpunk 2077. It'll give you a more proper way to romance Panam in-game. By default in Cyberpunk, your romance scene with Panam is actually interrupted by an attack, and things are largely left as is. You basically start to do the deed, but then you have to move on to do something else, and that's kind of it. But now, thanks to this mod, you're going to have a perfectly named new quest with Encore. A short duration after the original romance scene, Panam will text you asking if you want to finish what you started in the tank. From there, you'll be able to meet up with Panam at a place she was previously staying within Night City, and you'll have another romance opportunity with that character and end up having some lunch together with some short dialogue. Overall, it's honestly a really simple mod, but I think it makes a lot of sense in the overall context of the game and even just your relationship with Panam. But also I wanted to highlight this one because it continues to be incredible that modders are actually adding in fully custom quests to Cyberpunk 2077. But then there's the big one. Enemies of Night City is a new comprehensive overhaul that will specifically impact the enemies you're going to encounter all over the world. There really isn't a simple one-sentence description of this mod. It's going to rework numerous mechanics around enemies. But it seems like the general idea behind this one is as you go up against different types of enemies, like let's say Militech, they'll probably have their own unique strengths and abilities and then certain counters to that. So when you're facing the Militech, your best playstyle will be one thing, but if you're facing a bunch of animals, your best playstyle might be a different thing. Each of the major factions in the game will have a completely different set of strengths and weaknesses. And this makes the gameplay far more interesting overall, as now you actually want to scan enemies and take a moment to figure out what is going to be good against them and really plan out your attack. And this mod does this in a really cool way, is one of the big aspects about this is just across the board, enemies are going to now have a host of new abilities and general enhancements. For example, enemies will now be able to use chems just like us. Combat stims are the most common version of this. This will heal enemies back up, and nearly every enemy in the game will have access to this. But also things like a juice tank to boost up resistances, a cooling system that will reset all of their abilities that are currently on cooldown, and even just a simple ability to actually break your hold as you grab onto them. And some of these actually get pretty powerful. The chameleon ability can be used by some elite units to blend into their background while they're standing still, but it's fairly well balanced, so as these enemies try to move, they'll actually flicker. And the enemies in this example even have access to toxic ammo, so every single shot they land on me will actually deal chemical damage. So overall, what you're going to notice with this mod is, on one hand, enemies across the board are buffed up. Cyberpunk is definitely harder with this mod installed, but there's also going to be specific and unique variations that are attached to certain factions, or at least that will be more prevalent with certain factions. And it almost feels like this one is leveling the playing field. Many of the crazy pieces of cyberware you can use, like berserk, optical camo, and even throwing weapons, are now also available for enemies to use against you. The Voodoo Boys are net running masters, and as a result, we won't be doing much net running around them. This faction will now have greater electrical and hacking resistances, this partially just in RAM cost, so it'll be more expensive to quick hack them, but also with thick ice. You'll be able to see all of the new abilities enemies have just by scanning them. And thick ice will basically make it so some quick hacks just straight up don't work on those enemies, but a lot of other quick hacks will take longer to upload and perhaps even be more expensive. So now breaching the Voodoo Boys and even just quick hacking them in general will be a lot more taxing or take a lot longer. But this mod will also make some notable variations when it comes to tiers of enemies. So when you come to the elite Voodoo Boys, they're going to just be straight up immune to many of your quick hacks. No more one-shotting them with some of the best ultimate options, but they're also going to be using shock weapons of their own. So each of their shots that land on you will deal bonus shock damage to your character, as well as these elite units are going to have complete blind and shock immunity. So avoid quick hacking and avoid shock, but they do have a newfound resistance to thermal damage, which could definitely be helpful. 6th Street is going to have some general resistances, and elite units feature burn and blind immunity, but the real benefit of 6th Street is these guys are going to be chipped. Many members of 6th Street will have the Sandevistan ability. This will negate most of your slow time efforts, as the 6th Street will also be able to move quickly while time is slowed, and they're going to largely feature tech weapons. And this is pretty relevant because if you do find enemies using smart weapons with this mod, those ones that automatically lock onto you, they're going to hit a lot more often. Smart weapons got a big buff with this mod, making them more accurate and relevant at greater ranges. Facing Militech is going to be an absolute nightmare. They're both tanky and offensively devastating. Militech soldiers have high stagger resistance. Those shotgun blasts are almost never going to knock them down anymore, but also they'll feature full burn immunity. Even with the homing thermal grenades, Militech soldiers will almost never be set ablaze. And perhaps most devastating of all, they're now equipped with incendiary ammo. So their shots that land on you will also set you on fire on a regular basis. These guys are now just absolutely brutal to take on, especially in groups. But one of the other pretty cool features of this mod is it'll also implement a bunch of new boss enemies around. You can see here for this NCPD scanner hustle, a Militech captain is implemented. This guy has a ton of unique abilities, like a charge jump where they can leap at me and knock me down, which is of course absolutely brutal for a melee enemy, but also this particular captain has a more advanced Sandevistan than me. So even when I slow time, the captain can actually move even faster in my slowed time. It's a really cool mechanic, and it's a hard counter to you trying to use slow time against them, but there's also some cool rewards, as if you manage to take out this particular captain, he's going to drop a new legendary Militech weapon, but no spoilers on that front. And you'll notice some higher tier enemies at certain gigs in the game as well, like this Militech Centaur, now at the gig Radar Love. Although don't forget about the snipers, as higher tier snipers will now often have things like thermal vision, which will allow them to track you through walls. So breaking visual contact isn't all you need to do now. They'll still be tracking you, and the second you pop your head up, they'll be there to take their shot. Snipers in general got a pretty big buff where now they'll fire more often and more accurately. The animals will be true melee gods here, featuring subdermal armor that will boost their resistances, but also things like dashes and leap, so they can very quickly close the distance to pummel you. One of the biggest changes though is that the animals are going to have widespread access to berserk. They'll activate this and become empowered and deal even more damage while also taking taking less damage themselves, although only for a limited time. Of course, I'm just highlighting a couple of the gangs and corpos in Cyberpunk. These changes will apply to every single faction in the game, or at least basically all of them. But the fun doesn't stop there, as police are also going to see some upgrades here. First, one upgrade is actually for ourselves. We'll now be able to hack police, which is definitely needed as a counter, but there's going to be greater variety in the types of police enemies that can spawn, including Max Tac, who are going to have more variants. And as you can imagine, as you face off against Max Tac, things will be unbelievably difficult now. Max Tac will have some of the best armor and resistances in the game, and a ton of abilities that they can use against you. I mean, in fact, the only way I was able to actually get the gameplay you're seeing in the background is by turning on God mode. Otherwise, I just kept dying before I even got to Max Tac by other police officers. And the mod takes things even further than that. It'll hook into many of the gigs and quests in the game, so you have unique experiences on those, but I don't want to spoil that. But also things like Cyber Psychos are now going to be far tougher fights, and even some of the major boss fights are reworked, with those bosses having unique and very powerful abilities. But again, I don't want to spoil this. I honestly just think this is a mod best experienced in game. It does a really good job of giving you access to the relevant information by scanning an enemy, so you kind of know what you're getting up against. But it has things like a rework to enemy AI, or even some of the animations they'll use, and some new voice lines are added for some enemies. This is a true comprehensive overhaul to just every single enemy in Night City. It's a really fun way to experience the game, new mechanics and abilities that can be used against you, but also a lot more flexibility with your build and having to prioritize certain counters against certain factions. I think it's a right mod for a new playthrough, but if you're downloading these mods, make sure you also check out this video, where I highlight some of the other wild upgrades modders are bringing to Cyberpunk 2077, including one of my all-time favorite visual overhauls.